Greenskin Prologue Chapter 1. It has already been 10 years since I had landed into this world. Magic and other different races, so far as monsters exist in this world. I had quietly sat on the street alone as I tapped my shoulder with a steel sword that's not even worth being called a sword. If it was truly a sharp sword, the moment it contacts with my shoulder, I should suffer a wound, but I couldn't even touch such a healed item. Useless swordsman. Although I thought I had roamed over this ground for quite some time now, I still failed to escape the third class. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer in this world, as obtaining a house here was like trying to pick a star in the sky. Third-rate swordsmen like myself slept in the open together with the homeless as a daily routine. Frankly, you couldn't even call us homeless. So we would stare at the parties seeking members. I started to hear the noise and commotion here and there. It's the Sword Saint. Sword Saint. Walking over was a woman with black hair fluttering behind. Not yet 25 in age, praised by the summoners as one of the continent's top 10, was also known as Sword Saint Hayuri. The sword swaying by her waist was extremely splendid. Dungeon. It was apparently obtained at the Holy Order. To even consider comparing that with my steel sword was like I was sinning. The St. Knight's Order she was in had guards that encircled her as they walked down, which was very awesome to see. It seems only those that are destined become like that. It's highly probable that I'm not the only one thinking like that. As well, all of those envious looks were staring at Sword Saint Hayuri, as if she was an idol satisfying the chants of her fans. She slowly bowed to the people around her as she headed towards her guild house. Just then, Sword Saint Hayuri was slowly turning towards me. Why? Over here. It was truly surreal to see her pass through the guards and walk here. Slowly approaching, Saint Sword Hayuri handed out a gold coin from her pocket and began to give it to me. One day, all of you will be able to make a nice place to live in. Work hard. Although it was a cliché, the voice was that of a beautiful songbird. Those big eyes that were as if they were larger than the pupils of a deer, and that pure white skin as if she had lived inside the whole time that didn't match her military position. But what stood out above all was the divine atmosphere around her. Thank you. No problem. If you need help, please visit the guild house whenever. Ah. Yes. It wasn't like I haven't seen Sword Saint Hayuri giving out grace to other summoners occasionally when she came out of the guild house. But still, it was a first to be the benefactor of that. Looking around, everyone was staring at me with envy. Miss Hayuri, it is time to go. Ah. Yes. Then. I will. Seeing the back of Hayuri shrinking, I couldn't help but think that all of this was a scheme today as I watched dumbfounded. In my ears, I started to hear the voice "Please work hard" ring repeatedly. Ha. Ha. As such, I was able to leave the city after a long time. Concerned that others may see, I quickly stuffed the gold coin into my backpack full of food, water, and other useless scraps, and decided to call my friends and comrades to go for a hunt. Of course, the change from the money I had left, I quickly stuffed it into my backpack as well. Despite my 10 years here, I only knew a few people. The problem was that nearly all of these relationships were useless, but it was still better than not having any. My first comrade was a thief named Kwasulogy living in the alleys. Frankly, stealing was a secondary job and selling her body was her primary income, but she was one that preferred to call herself more of a thief. Hey! It's been a long time. What's the matter? Did you get some money? I heard that you received a gold coin from a Sword Saint. How was it? I didn't come for that reason. Then what is it? To have a meal with me? By any chance? Are you asking me on a date? No, it's not that. I never imagined that it would be this difficult to ask her to join a hunting campaign together. Scratching the back of her head, it seemed that she finally realized what I wanted. Smiling, Thief Kwasulogy opened her mouth. Aha. By any chance, you're thinking of going on a hunt? Right. I bought enough food. If there was a good bunch of monsters, I thought I should stop by. Well, those Green Goblin clan guys. They are a bit quiet lately. It is an auspicious timing. The Green Goblin clans were a colony that consisted of goblins. Among the formed monster colonies, it was still one of the weaker guys. However, these goblins were quite troublesome because of their quick speed that could threaten beginner adventurers. So how about it? Are you going? Pay. Of course, 5,050. I'm heading out with that grandpa magician and a swordsman that was willing to join us. A priest. Do you really expect one? She nodded her head after hearing my words, and began to open her mouth. All right. Business wasn't doing too well anyways nowadays. It wouldn't hurt to earn a tidy sum of money. Who knows? Maybe we might hit the lottery. Those odds are quite thin. But it would be nice to have such an opportunity. Staring at some random far place, she opened her mouth while chuckling. It seemed something was very amusing to her. Fell in love. WH. What? The Sword Saint. You've fallen for her. That's not possible. Of course you can't. It's often said to not even look at the tree that you can't climb. The statuses of the two of you are completely different. I didn't really fall for her, but I thought that it was unnecessary for her to keep stabbing at me with those truths. It was a truth I already knew. She turned back towards me quietly before starting again. Well, some that could mingle with you would be at best someone like me, right? That's most likely. I roughly answered as I smiled. That blushing face. As such, we clumsily left the city. There were a total of 4 people in the party. That grandpa magician that lived nearby. He was a dumb base that couldn't escape the title of beginner magician for several decades. But, in our third-rate party, the power of a magician was quite valuable. The clumsy tanker Shindaku was a trustworthy guy as he could at least produce flames, and the convenient thing about him was that he could certainly deflect arrows aside with his magic shield. After walking for the whole day while sharing conversations, as if we had travelled quite far away from the city, a few monster zones started to appear. Wow! It seems that lately, you hunt with those types of equipment. Well, I'm curious as to what's in that bag. Voices could be heard from here and there. Fuck. The anxious, tense states of party members began to emerge. To suddenly show such a personality, it's quite possible that those men are murderers. Outside the city, those wicked men that live on backstabbing their fellow summoners. It is said that the day you depart is a fair day. Quasulaji likewise began to be nervous as she held her dagger up with an anxious expression. Usually, if they were highly skilled guys, then there was no reason to try and backstab us. It's certain that these guys too are also third-rate. No matter how high you reckon them to be, they probably were promoted only a few times. They wouldn't have such an ability like a unique skill as well. Their numbers rounded to about 5. Although they had one more person, it was a fight that was worth risking. Was what I thought before an unexpected arrow pierced through the old magician's forehead in a moment's glance. Fuck. At least memorize a scroll, old man. I raised my sword and started to charge out. Although we were called third-rate, we definitely had experience. As if not expecting our side to be this aggressive, they were somewhat flabbergasted as I could start hearing voices. Grab that bastard. Since the archer had fired that arrow, his location was now in an exposed state. Thankfully, since these stupid bastards were attempting to use a surrounding tactic, the warrior that was tasked with protecting the archer didn't see me. Jumping out as fast as I can, I thrust my sword into the bowman's heart. Puke. Was hurt as blood sprayed over my face as I pulled my sword out. 1 for 1. At least on our side, there was a useful warrior. I'm sure that Quasulaji too won't lose her life absurdly considering the long time she has spent here. The moment I turned around, I could hear a scream AHHHHHHHK. It was definitely Quasulaji's voice. In that spot was the warrior that I brought Shinduko stabbing his sword into Quasulaji. Betrayal. Fuck. Fuck. You fucking bastard. HM, this is regrettable. Friend. You trash-like bastard. No matter how I see it, it seems that Guy was related to those murderers. Although it wasn't like the word escape appeared in my head, I couldn't after seeing Quasulaji's body spilling blood on the ground. Fuck. I quickly began to rush out. Instantaneously, 4 people came to surround me, but my objective wasn't to kill these bastards. My objective was certainly to rescue Quasulaji. Advancing while roughly swinging my sword, the threatening Shindaku began to retreat. I threw the bag I was carrying over to Shindaku. While the attention of those bastards were distracted by the flying bag, I held Quasulaji in my arms and began to run. Although there was loud shouting behind me, there was no way I could stop. Even throwing away that shabby steel sword that was with me for how many years, I abandoned it on the floor and ran with all my might. Fuck. 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 I'm sorry. Sorry. Stupid. Bastard. Different than usual. Ha. Ah. This doesn't feel good. Leave me, you stupid fool. or else you're going to get caught. Shut up. Shut up. I could feel a severe pain from behind. I could see a short spear piercing through my chest. But there was no way I could stop. Although I wanted to faint this instant, if I were to fall, we would both die. Stubbornly, I barely held on to my consciousness as I broke the short spear stuck in front of my chest. If I were to pull this out, there was no mistake that I would collapse from the intense bleeding. Thankfully, I still had the energy to move. This reason was due my unique skill HP increase. I never imagined that this skill would help in this kind of situation. Thanks to it, I could continue to run. Catch that bastard. Stupid pigs. Those bastards are so slow. Pull. Ha. Ha. Both Kwasuji and I didn't have the strength to laugh as we just smiled. Although I was wholly exhausted, I ran in order for us to live. Those murdering bastards, as long as they retrieve that backpack, it seems it doesn't matter what happens afterwards. No, as if they were prepared to leave for another city after this one. I couldn't see their figures as I continued to run farther away. Fuck. Suji. Suji, are you listening? Despite that, the reason why I didn't stop running was because of Kwasuji that was in my arms. Likewise, both Kwasuji and I were in critical states. Kwasuji, who didn't have a special characteristic like I did, was in a much more dangerous situation. I'm listening. Just a bit more. Until the castle. Although I endured quite a bit, it seemed that I couldn't handle this mortal wound. I roughly wiped away the flowing blood that was coming out of my lips as I sprinted even faster. I started shouting in a state where I could be misunderstood as an undead with a spear pierced through my chest. Door. Open the door. State your identities. A person is dying. Quickly. Quickly. 5th grade summoner Kim Tae-sung, and 5th grade summoner Kwasuji. Fuck. What the hell are you doing in the middle of the night? Huh? Kim Tae-sung, Kwasuji. Have you checked that they left today? Yes. 4 of them. Fuck. Hurry up and open the door. Although it was a cold voice full of complaints, it seemed that they were opening the gate after checking our identities. After the castle gate opened, I started to quickly head in. Temple. Temple. Just wait a bit more and you'll live. Just a bit more. But it was already too late. Even if I did run to the temple, it would probably be closed, and the main problem was that we didn't have any money. In that moment, I suddenly remembered a voice. I could hear the voice of Sword Saint Hayuri I met today ringing in my ear. No problem. If you need help, please visit the guild house whenever. Without any more time to waste, I started to run towards the Holy Knights guild house. As expected, the lights were still on, as it seems they were working even at this time. Running in, I started to recklessly pound at the door. The Holy Knights guards ran to stop me. I really don't have much time left. Some time ago, I could feel Kwasuji's body gradually getting colder in my hands. You crazy bastard. Where do you think this is? Please. Please help. My comrade was attacked by a murderer. Please help. Out of my sight, you crazy bastard. If the upper class wake up, are you taking responsibility? Please, just a priest. If you call a priest. Saint. Sword Saint had definitely told me to come here if I needed help. Ook. Although there was a few nagging, after bringing out Sword Saint Hayuri's words, it seemed that there was some effect. Fortunately, I continued to hold on to the pain in my chest as I monitored the situation. You fucking bastard. You're going to die in my hands if this isn't true. Hey, go check. Yes. Thankfully, the guard had entered the guild house. But the response I heard was unexpected. She said it's a person she doesn't know. That can't be. If she saw me, she'll probably know. Maybe. Get out of my sight. You slacking bastard. This fucking bastard. Because of you, I'm going to get a scolding. She said that she didn't meet a bastard like you before, and only saw you for the first time now. You'd like bastard. That can't be. Although I was somewhat angry, it wasn't the time for me to tarry. Shutting up, I ran towards the shrine once again. Although blood continued to flow down my mouth, it wasn't as serious as Kwasuji's crisis. Suul. Gi. Suji. Hey! Too noisy. Really. I'm going to die. Fuck. If you're alive, tell me so. Or else I'll be worried. It's hard to speak, though. Just hold on a bit more. Repeating once more, I continued to run. If I knew such a thing would happen, I would have ran to the temple first, as those thoughts continued to roam in my mind. While running, I could hear Quasulagi's voice. After struggling to open her mouth, she started to speak what she wanted bit by bit. Hey! After this ends, want to live together. I, too, want to set this life and live like a person. With that proposition out of nowhere, seeing her begin to faintly close her eyes, I had no choice but to reply, all right. Let's live together. Live together. So don't die. Hold on. We're almost there. Then, I could feel Quasulagi's hand that was holding on to mine droopily fall down. Fuck. Hey! Hey! Quasulagi! Though I kept screaming, I couldn't hear a response from Quasulagi. As if HP increase had endured as much as it could, blood rather started to surge out of my mouth. I didn't have the strength to move my legs any longer. It seems I've reached my limit. Those bastards. Tears continued to flow down my face. It wasn't just the body of Quasulagi that had become a corpse. Not knowing English, to be brought over here and live the life of a dog and die like this made me extremely angry. One day, all of you will be able to make a nice place to live in. Work hard. No problem. If you need help, please visit the guild house whenever. That bitch. Due to the shock, I couldn't speak. But what made me angrier was that I had believed in those words like a foolish bastard. To roam around the streets in that saintly cosplay, I felt if my life had become completely fooled with that like bitch. Kintazung, you foolish bastard. I continued to embrace the cold body of Quasulagi, thinking about the Shindakyo that had purposely betrayed me in order to backstab. Rather than hating myself, I was more regrettable towards Quasulagi as I could feel a sense of shame overcame me. Rise. Please. Let's stand up. Now. Fuck, let's live like a person. Have a baby. And live life. I'll raise them up. Slowly, the vision around me blurred. Before dying, the memories of the life I lived brushed past me in rapid succession. Ridiculously, the gods didn't even permit me to see that. I couldn't see anything. At the center of a dark, dusky city without anyone. I died in that place with Quasulagi in my embrace. TL afterward. Starting a new side project. Always wanted to do a monster reincarnation novel and will be alternating between this and Stoner Days. Special thanks to Psy101 and Uptime that has taken the task of being my PRS for this one. This one's easier to read with more action. Kingdom building monster reincarnation harem game elements. Sign me up. As for that Holicent bitch, excuse my language, I hope Mud can exact some revenge. Green Skin Chapter 2. Duke. Hey! Open your eyes. Hey, I'm fine, Duke. Listening to this voice, I quickly opened my eyes and stared above. Water. The voice that spoke out of my mouth was normal than I had thought. No, before that. I haven't died. Did I dream? Quasulagi. Where did Quasulagi go? Slightly raising my head, the various types of my surroundings came into my sight all at once. As if someone had heard my voice, I could feel the cold water splashed into my face. As soon as the water hit my face, I could feel that cold liquid trickle through my throat. From my mouth, the water spread across my body as I could feel that clear and cold liquid awaken my pores one by one. Not surprisingly, my body reacted by instantaneously rising up. Guke. Being suddenly lifted up, as if it was very surprised, a scream came out of a green-faced goblin that was with me as it flipped over backwards. The monster was holding a bag filled with water. Not caring about anything, I ran blindly towards the bag and grabbing it away, I began to earnestly drink the water. Although I wasn't sure as to the reason why the goblin woke me up, there was no strange sense of incongruity. It was probably because I read the sense of worry in the goblin's eye. If it was like the old times, I would probably be shocked out of my wits, swing my sword, and be busy running away. Maybe because I had fallen down while running around, it plainly ordered me to drink the water. Raising the water bag with a grip that I shouldn't be able to have just yet, I started to pour the water down my throat. It's water. Water. It was clean water, which I had not drank in such a long time. The guzzling sound wasn't something that was great to hear. Although it was quite funny to express it like this, but it felt like a drain that had just been unclogged. Maybe it's because I was too excited, I didn't bother with some of the water running down the sides of my mouth at all. With the light suddenly turning off, I momentarily lowered the bag. The small puddle of water started to faintly reflect my face. A green-faced goblin. It was definitely a goblin's face. Ah! It was then I had confirmed that strange figure from earlier. Shocked, I urgently looked around and inspected my surroundings. The surrounding scenery was a very dense forest, definitely when I had spent time in that forest from the tutorial. With a surprised look, I searched around me and saw an old-looking goblin beginning to talk to me. Despite being a language I definitely didn't understand, I listened as it began to translate. This place is Guke. It seems that you now recollected yourself. TCH. Lately, these young fellas have no manners. Can you remember how you fell into this place? Though I don't know the reason, it seems that all of us had ended up in an awkward place. Guke. The voice that was spoken by my ear. You really can't remember? It definitely said that this was a tutorial. Also I thought I heard. What was certain was that when I opened my eyes before, I was a human. Gradually holding up my hands, I was greeted with a pair of green hands. They were very small. It seems I've really returned as a goblin is what I thought. The language of goblins that I shouldn't be able to understand was naturally being heard. Guke. Can't you hear my voice? I think I heard it as well. But, how I came to this place? I'm not quite sure. Looking around, other than the elder goblins, I could feel that the rest too were looking towards this side. Despite having experience in my previous life, it was quite impossible to kill a horde of goblins of this magnitude. Like before, as a 5th-class summoner, 3 goblins were my limit. For now, I need to grasp the situation at hand and first analyze it. I had once again gradually became lost in my thoughts. As if realizing that I don't know anything, the elder goblin slowly moved towards another place. As for me, I slowly observed my hands and feet. Although I'm feeling this now, I could sense that my height of sight was a lot lower than from my previous body. On my hands were sharp fingernails and my feet, similarly, had sharp toenails. Opening my mouth and touching my teeth, I could tell they were quite sharp as well. Though I'm not exactly sure what had happened, what was certain was that I had changed into a monster. And among that, one of the continent's lowest ranked monsters within the food chain, a goblin. Exploring my surroundings, I was quite positive that I was at the tutorial zone I had once experienced. I definitely remember being at this exact same place several decades ago, except as a human. After looking around the scenery standing still for quite some time, the female goblin that had been holding the water bag earlier addressed me. Guke. Compared to that handsome face, you're quite a shameless fella. Although I had no clue what parts of my face were handsome, but I was sure that she spoke those words to me. Even though I had brought water for you, I don't even get a proper thanks. Though I have no clue as to how a goblin makes an expression, but she was definitely talking to me. And come to think of it, I was quite curious as to how I had known the opposite goblin's gender when there were hardly any difference when it came to appearances. In spite of being not certain, it seems that I have really changed races. But, seeing that I couldn't leave the girl staring at me waiting, I opened my mouth towards the goblin. I'm sorry. As long as you know. Guke. So, Where did you come from? I don't remember quite well. Well, that doesn't matter. Anyways, seeing that you're fine, how are you? Don't you have any plans to mate with me? Of course not. In front of me was a green-looking monster. If not a eunuch, it's impossible to have such emotions materialize. I'm fine for now. From my words, the female goblin's face changed threateningly. It seems that I've said something greatly disrespectful. But in my view, the fact that the goblin had asked me of this was itself rude. Fine. Duke. Just like that, the goblin left, causing me to reflect on my situation once more before having a voice intrude into my thoughts. Thanks to it, I was able to have some clarity as to what kind of circumstances I was in. Starting from now, the tutorial will now progress. There will be humans that will be summoned on any random location. The safety zone will now be deactivated. Tutorial objective: survive for 100 days. Your character will be activated. The quest window has been activated. Quest: the first battle. You who have been suddenly dragged to an unexpected place without reason. You may be quite perplexed, but surviving is the priority. Kill the summoned humans. 0/10. Duke. 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 What was that? Duke. All of a sudden, a boisterous sound filled the place. I don't think it was just me that had heard this voice. Could it be that the monsters have the same task as us? I was pretty sure that this wasn't the only inference that this situation had brought. Other than the fact that I had switched from a human to a goblin, the quests I got from the tutorial now compared to the past were exactly the same. Although the sounds that came out of nowhere from this place became noisier, I could sense that the goblin horde were all becoming tense in this forest. It's the humans. It's the humans. Duke. 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 It was then that a sound began to appear from somewhere. If you look at this continent as a whole, the goblins were quite a weak race. However, those were the standards of the continent. The goblins can fundamentally win against these humans that have just entered this tutorial from the summons. In terms of strength and dexterity, even the physical abilities, in truth, the humans had the upper hand. But that wasn't the problem. The summoned humans that had just been summoned will instinctively feel fear. Although they do receive compensation for their physical abilities, it was severely lacking to the fear they still had to overcome. Kill. Kill. The elder goblin I had just seen before was raising a crude staff as he began roaring in a loud voice. As if matching the intensity of that voice like tribesmen, the goblins began to run towards the place where they could sense the humans. I, after seeing that, also began to join the other goblins as well, rushing towards the humans after briefly being mesmerized seeing that movement. There was no time to think. The place I'm in right now is the tutorial's forest. For now, surviving is my top priority. Even if there's the possibility that I was accidentally revived as a monster, I can't live my life like an idiot like before. If the tutorial for the humans and goblins progress like it did before, then I must complete this quest. There's no avoiding it. In order to survive in my previous life, I had killed countless humans. The forest slowly cleared up as the human mass appeared. Although some were given tutorial swords and shields, that rusty steel sword and that wooden shield that was about to break, they were items that you couldn't call weapons. Some were even empty-handed. What the hell is happening? Damn. Kyarik. Save me. Save me. It's a monster. Damn. The men should go stand a bit farther up. You over there. You go and fight. You have a sword and shield. Despite having this body, I could understand the words of the humans. As expected, they were in a panicked state. The humans that were hurriedly raising their daggers were besieged by the goblins. Seeing a chance, I quickly went in. It was true that it was quite an advantageous situation, but the chances of being killed by a blind sword was also low for now. And not to mention that the quest condition had as many as 10 people. To recklessly jump in, it still wasn't a number that could be easily attained. Kill the humans. A goblin that had leapt up into the air had thrust a dagger into a human's throat. Although I thought it was a scene that should have been difficult to see, but strangely, I didn't have any reactions to it. Although I somewhat expected it, it seems that my way of thinking had also changed. The ones that were holding swords and shields instantly collapsed, causing the somewhat formation that was in place to be destroyed as well. This caused those who couldn't overcome their fear to start running. It was rather better to keep yourself in the mass than separate, since it'll increase your chances of living. Those that separate recklessly into the forest were almost 100 dead. Seeing a dagger embedded in a dead goblin corpse from afar, I quickly approached it, plucked it out, and began to throw it towards the humans. Even if I were to spend time in the front line, I could only oppose one human at best. Although it felt strange within my small hands, the dagger had precisely pierced through a human's forehead. With these weak physical abilities, there was no need to fight against them face to face with the dagger. So I simply threw the daggers from the back, which sufficiently shifted the progress of the battle. AHHHHHHK. Be careful of the dagger. AHHHHHHK. Run. Run. Once I started throwing these daggers aiming towards the humans that were holding on, one by one, the surrounding humans were influenced by it and began to fall apart. Although it was a short period of time, I had killed over 8 people as I saw the majority of those humans rolling around the ground. The battle was already over, I thought, as the goblin mass started chasing after the humans, and so far as seeing some goblins eating the pile of human corpses. I knew for sure. The battle was over. Food. It's food. Gyuk. Gyuk. As if excited at the sight, the goblins started to eat the slaughtered humans. I turned my head at the sudden bloody smell that came from the humans desecrated by goblins and gazed at them. I'm hungry. Fuck. The extremely delicious smell of meat continued to swarm my nose. Although I did have the sense that the raw flesh of humans was disgusting, seeing those goblins greedily feast on that human flesh in great delight, I felt vomit surging from within before I knew it. I looked on at the goblins that were drooling out of their mouths. Just from looking at them, I could sense that they were accustomed to this. But then, that sudden face. As if he was looking as if he had made a misstep, there was a body that was pierced with a dagger lying straight up, his eyes wide. Although it was quite blurry, I couldn't help but remember. The reason why was because the person that was currently lying on the floor was a comrade that I fought with decades ago, who would later go on to be called the Twilight Swordsman. What the hell is happening exactly? With my eyes wide open, I could clearly tell this was the Twilight Swordsman that I knew of. I couldn't help but feel that things have become quite twisted, heading towards a strange direction. Chapter 4. Green Skin Chapter 3. I urgently looked around. The woman who had survived till the end before that was called Scroll Plunderer had her forehead pierced by a dagger, becoming the meal of a goblin, while a man who had survived for 5 years after the tutorial called the Flame Archer was fending off against a few goblins. However, the time it took for the body to be ravaged was an instant. AHHHHHHHK. His scream rang through my ears. Gyuk gyuk gyuk. The goblins laughed as the man's screams were eaten aside. It was definite. Despite having it been a few decades since the tutorial, I couldn't forget these faces who I had depended on while living and sharing one's company together. I had returned to the past. I'm not sure if someone had sent me to the past, but what was certain was that I had definitely returned. Looking around, the blurred memories slowly reminisced. This location. Together with these people, we had succeeded in fending off these goblins in our first battle. Although there were definitely people that had fled, I still remembered how we had sloppily formed a defensive circle while fighting. Of course, I was crouching my body as much as possible, but anyways, I was certain that I was at this location. Probably those daggers that I had thrown, I imagined how they could have been the determining factors in changing the future, but I soon changed my mind. I wasn't certain yet. There were still a few more things I needed to check. If I had really returned back to the past, then we would definitely be able to meet again. Quasology. Stealthily, I let out a smile. She told me that she was summoned here 1 year earlier than me, so she should probably be entering the continent now after completing the tutorial. And Hayuri. Hayuri will probably be on this continent as well. My teeth automatically clenched. While the surging rage was moving up to my head, it was then. Quest complete. Quest: the first battle. You who have been suddenly dragged to an unexpected place without reason. You may be quite perplexed, but surviving is the priority. Kill the summoned humans. 10/10. You have obtained a new quest. Quest: go hunting. There are still many humans alive in the forest. Please continue to hunt these humans. 0/30. Excellent. You have successfully completed your first quest. Your quest reward will be a rank up. Please select one of the following 3 evolutions. 1. Goblin Warrior. 2. Goblin Mage. 3. Goblin Archer. As expected, it was exactly the same. I chuckled momentarily at a loss. Who would have known that it wasn't just the humans, but goblins as well that progressed through the tutorial as well? Though I glanced at the 3 following options, I didn't really contemplate. My previous life, I had chosen the warrior. I'm not sure if it'll be the same as the humans' tech tree, but if it was similar, then I must choose the warrior as it is an easy path to grow quickly. Yet again, I've already heard many times that I had no talent. To choose another path would rather be fatal. choosing the first option, my muscles in a moment's glance became distorted. Ark. Hearing my own voice, the bones here and there were beginning to slam and crash against one another. K. It seems that it wasn't just me who was evolving, as I could hear the cries of other goblins in places. Gyuk. Gyuk. Ark. It felt as if I was fully soaked in sweat. Although it was still lacking, I could definitely feel the flowing strength as I was transcending. It feels like my appearance has become a bit larger. No, just from looking at my biceps, I can tell that compared to earlier, I was quite different. Still crude, I was able to see the form of the sword appearing in front of me. While looking down on the sword, I stealthily investigated my surroundings and saw the elder goblin along with other goblins stare dumbfounded at the other goblins that either evolved into either goblin warriors or goblin midges. I felt that the daily behaviors and routines of monsters and humans were similar when we were setting up camps not long after the battle. Since dinner time had arrived, one by one, we started to gather. In places where ordinary goblins existed, with the appearance of stronger goblins, the existing group that was scented by the elder goblin scattered. It seemed that it wasn't a clan originally. Instinctively, they started to gather below the ones that were much stronger. Just like the past. Then, we, too, started to move together under the strong that had changed classes. Although a new clan is formed with the strong as the core, the difference between the humans and us was that we still moved as a whole. Unfortunately, being one of the first to change classes, a few goblins came in search of me. I stared absent-mindedly at the standing goblins in front of me. I want to be under your command, Gyuk. I too wish to be under your command, Gyuk. Even the female goblin that wanted to mate with me earlier was blushing with her hands behind her back. I want to fight together as well, Gyuk. You're going to accept, right? What made you come to me? There are a few other goblins that also have evolved other than myself. I saw how you fought. You weren't dauntless, but you were despicable and smart, Gyuk. I watched you throw daggers while hiding. You don't have a single wound on your body. That is the very thing that makes a goblin despicable. I want to learn that kind of mental fortitude, Gyuk. Whether I should be glad or not, it seems that I'll have to think about it. Currently, the fact that I'm gathering strength is good. Although they won't definitely be throwing their lives for me, they won't naturally betray me either. No matter how much wisdom you have in the past, whether it's humans or goblins, it's essential to be in a group to survive. Quickly arranging my thoughts, I extended my hand as I opened my mouth. Like a goblin should. I'm counting on you, Gyuk. As such, I had gained subordinates. Thus, amongst the 120 summoned goblins, I had the second highest number of goblins under me that I can order. Frankly, rather than ordering, the notion is much closer to working together, but anyhow, they were under my command. The number was about 30, with 4 transcended goblins that were leading their own separate groups, which wasn't a small number by far. The goblin warrior with the largest figure had formed a band of about 40 goblins, and I could remember the goblin warrior's name was Goff. Although I was quite certain I hadn't seen such a warrior with that large of a frame in the last tutorial, it's probably because he had fought too dauntlessly in the past and had either received a fatal wound, or had died somewhere else without us knowing. Anyways, to have the second highest number of members amongst the 4, it seems that the way I fought was admirable in their standpoint. Goff, although he wasn't too pleased with me, it seems as if there was an imaginary line between our groups to not bother each other, for he did not talk much at me. Sneakily turning my head, I could see the goblins diligently carrying over the dead goblin corpses from the battle. Our captain is special, Gyuk. Our captain doesn't eat humans. But instead, he eats goblins, Gyuk. After ordering these guys to bring something else other than humans for dinner, watching them carry over the dead corpses of other goblins made me lost for words momentarily, but I thought it was for the best. Although it was a truth I already knew, it seemed that there were no opinions of objection in eating your dead brethren. Rather, the rumors that spread of us not eating humans but goblins caused a few to offer in joining us. The reason we didn't eat humans was simple. Though a lot of things have changed after becoming a goblin, I still held the self-perception of being a human. I will never eat it. This not being the case, but if I do continue to eat humans, I thought that it would cause me to possibly abandon my humanity in the end. It was definitely a strangely dangerous condition. It was a minimal compromise to rationalize my decision. Gulp. Ripping off a goblin arm from dinner that those weaker goblins had brought, I threw it into my mouth. Although the taste was worse than humans, it was still quite edible. As if I was chewing on some dried squid, I continued to gnaw at the food. Though it has been a long time since I last ate, despite the food being uncooked, it was sufficient to satisfy my hunger. The feeling that I was chewing on something made me very glad. Due to the gradual darkening night, I decided to endure with this much, considering how I couldn't just light a fire at this time. Other than our group, the rest were all eating the humans. The female goblin that had handed over water was sitting beside me as if she was willing to become my wife, as she occupied the seat next to me. Even though that smooth and tender human's arm looked delicious on one side, it was also a bit disgusting as well. Although I initially wanted to shoo her away since it was annoying, I decided to let it be, but it seems that she was clinging on to me even more. Letting out a breath, I opened my mouth in front of my 30 subordinates. Tonight, we leave for the hunt. Gyuk. Hunt. Hunt. Gyuk gyuk. It's good that the night is dark. But we will be tired. Gyuk. Although there were a few that grumbled their complaints, once they were a part of the tribe, they had to listen to orders. Perhaps they would be more passionate if I had more achievements. The fact that monsters had better night vision than humans was common sense. Although it would be difficult to find the humans with our undeveloped sense of smell, that would change with me around. The extent as to where they were hiding, no matter which group, can be roughly estimated. Though it wasn't comforting to be ambushing the unprepared humans, but it wasn't a bad thing as well. If we remain still, then our numbers would be reduced, and if our numbers shrink, then we will eventually die to the stronger humans. Even if we were to survive after natural selection, we will eventually die once we arrive at the continent. Though this was a goblin's body, if you see it otherwise, it was an opportunity given by the gods. To move quickly was the most rational thing to do. I need to maximize my benefits in the tutorial at best so that I'll be comfortable once I leave for the continent. When do we leave, Captain? When it becomes a bit more dark, we will hunt then. When it becomes dark, there would definitely be a group that would prepare to stop. Our job was to trail behind those kind of groups. We are the Blood-Dagger clan. After we leave for the hunt, we will capture all the fleeing humans and bring them here. Whoever follows me will not starve. If I made a clan, then I need to have the confidence to teach that clan first. After roughly modifying the monster species clan name that appeared in some game and saying it out loud, it seems that the effects were greater than expected. We are the Blood-Dagger clan. Gyuk. Blood-Dagger clan. Gyuk gyuk. Our captain is despicable. Despicable. Gyuk. We are the pronoun of despicable, Blood-Dagger clan. No one can stop us. I didn't want this kind of effect to this extent, but anyways it's good enough. Determining that now to be a suitable time, I led the goblins into the forest and commenced the hunt. The other goblin tribes were staring at us dumbstruck. They had expressions as if wondering where we were going in the middle of the night as they continued to eye us. Since I had evolved, the larger me continued to walk faster than the others. Of course, the sounds of goblins running besides me were disturbing. However, the sounds were definitely not loud enough for the humans that hadn't properly bloomed to hear from afar and flee. Currently, rather than covertly moving, it was a situation where we had to swiftly advance. Running for quite some time, it seems that those fellas were getting tired as they started to slow down. Briefly raising my hand, I slowly opened my mouth. We will rest here for a while before resuming. Gyuk. 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 If my memory proved me right, there's a cave not too far from here. During the time when I was a human, it was the cave that we had arrived in after suffering and escaping the battle. In the past, we met other survivors there as well. Though the number was quite large, it was sufficiently enough for the 30 goblins to capture, since the majority of those hidden in the cave were losers that had fled from the fight. Finishing our rest time, we quietly and covertly crept forward. As expected, I could start to feel the faint indications of humans emitting from the cave. Although they weren't idiots that had burned a fire, I could hear their clamoring noises. Damn. What the hell is happening? Damn. To suddenly be a tutorial. And what are those monsters? Hearing the voices from the cave, I slightly raised my hand, causing the goblins following from behind to stop their breathing at once. With all of them hiding their breathing, I could hear the conversations those guys were sharing that were riding the winds much better.